Welcome back to How China Works. This is Brendan Davis, and I'm here with my co-host, Ying Li, in person for a change. Hi, Ying.
Hi, Brendan. Finally, right?
Yes, it has been a long journey to be in the same room again with you, but it's been a fun one, and we've had some good shows. You've done some great jobs doing remote interviews. I want to say thank you for all that.
Finally, and we are here with...
our guest. We have our guest here with us. We have Mr. Chris ONIYA. Did I say that right?
Yes, very
In Chinese?
correct. Yeah.
Also known as
Louis.
in Chinese.
Good name.
And you have such a hugely eclectic background. We would like to invite you first to tell us how you introduce yourself to people so that we can just have a framework for you.
Okay, no problem. My name is Chris ONIYA. My Chinese name is Louis. In Chinese, Louis means the road you walk is very easy in life. I've been in China for about 11 years. I did my language course for about a year and a half, and my bachelor's, MBA, then PhD. I'm currently the founder and secretary general of the International Alumni Association. I'm also the CEO of Youfu International Education. We provide international education platform for children from 6 to 12 years old age. I also sit on the board of the UIBE Alumni Council. That's pretty much my story or my introduction about myself.
So you have been in Beijing for 11 years.
Yeah, about 11 years.
You also, when you look back, when you first have this idea to establish this association, because for me, alumni culture here in China is a growing thing. But how did you come up with this idea?
Like it was so funny Ian, how the story happened. About 7-8 years ago, I was actually the first chairman of the International Student Association in UIBE, and the school, whenever a lot of companies or a lot of institutions will come to talk to the school about international students, they always send me as a representative. And when I will be going out in society, like leaving UIBE, I will meet a lot of very influential foreigners. And when I speak to them, I'll ask them, tell me a little bit about yourself. And they're like, you know what? I graduated from UIBE. I was like, what? You graduated from UIBE? Why don't I know this? And they're like, yeah, once we graduated, we lost the connection with the school university. I'm like, ding, 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 ding. That's that entrepreneurial mindset. I'm like, ding, 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 ding. Oh, I got an idea.
Yeah,
opportunity. I spoke to the school, and I was like, when students graduate from university, do y'all keep in contact with them? Do y'all know what they're doing? They're like, no, they leave. They go back to their country or they go work. I'm like, why don't we create an organization that can be the liaison or that can, kind of facilitate both parties, And at first it was kind of refused. They didn't really accept it. They said, no, we don't need it, but through much persuasion and much convincing, they kind of got on board with it, and they said, you know what, it's something that they need, and that's how we got established.
Yeah, looking through your CV with all of your different accomplishments and travels, I imagine I can see that you're pretty persuasive to present. But the entrepreneurial mindset, how did that? Where did that? We'll just do a little sort of deep history and bring us to the present because there's so much to talk about for the present. How did you kind of form this mindset? What was kind of your early background?
Yeah, so I'll give you 2 examples, but I won't go too much in detail because they're very, very long.
Sure.
The first one is this: when I was little, when we're in elementary school, I would ask my parents for money. My parents would like to, to buy, at that time, buy chips, drinks. And, it's only $1.50. But my parents wouldn't give me the money. They'll say money is so hard to earn. So if you want it, you got to go out and buy it yourself. I'm like, how can I buy it if I don't have any money? I'm 11, 12 years old. And so then my parents said, you got to figure it out. So I was asking around. I'm like, what can an 11 and 12-year-old kid do in America that's legal? Because you can only work in the States after 16, 15, 16.
Yeah, the legal is the thing.
Yeah. There was one thing you could do. Only one thing in America when you're 11, 12 years old that you can work and it's legal. Selling newspapers in front of a store.
Okay.
Yeah, so
all
Walmart, H-E-B, these big American grocery stores.
Right.
We can sell newspapers in front of the store. And so I had to figure out, like, I worked for a company, Houston Chronicle, a daily newspaper agency. I worked for them, and I was selling newspapers for like $1, $1.25, and they'll give me 50 cents for each paper.
Oh.
Yeah, and when I was working there, I noticed on how well I sold the paper is how much money I made.
Right.
So the first day I started, I think I only made $10. Because I just started the first day, but I sold out. And the Houston Chronicle people, they were shocked. And so then I did it again. I made like $30 a day. Did it again. I made $50 a day, then $100 a day. Yeah.
And you're an 11-year-old.
11 years old. Yeah. So I just made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like selling newspapers.
And your mom and dad are like, son, can you?
No, actually they would. They'll be telling me, can I help pay the bills? I'm like, what?
Yeah, let's not get carried away.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, come on now, I'm 11.
Yeah, so selling newspapers, that was something I took fun to, and it taught me how to talk to people and how to interact with people. Because I just can't say buy the paper.
Sure.
I gotta say, look on the news today. This is what's going on. Buy the newspaper. This, I gotta try to sell the extra newspaper.
You looked at the stories and kind of gave people a little teaser.
There you go.
A little trailer for the newspaper. Yeah.
So that was a very interesting thing, and I think that's what gave me that entrepreneurial mindset and actually helped me become very persuasive and talk to people. And as that went on, when I hit around 14, 15 years old, at that time, China just hit the WTO, the World Trade Organization. So China and America was just starting to build that relationship. And I was looking to buy stuff online. And at that time, it was like clothes and shoes. I was buying that online from China.
Okay.
Because it just came into America, and I was buying it like very cheap. A lot of clothes and a lot of shoes. So I would import shoes and clothes from China, Guangzhou, in the south of China, to America. And I was like selling it, and I sold a lot of it. And I'm like, wow, this is a very good business,
And how old were you?
Oh, about 14, 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was the second ding.
Yeah, ding.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. So I have a family member, my uncle, he heard about it. He's like, wow, for you to do that at a very young age, to interact with China at a very young age is so interesting, How about you go to China? It's when I hit 18, 19.
Okay.
So he's like, how about you go to China, you study there, and, and learn more about the culture and see if you can do anything else. I'm like, me go to China? No. Even though I've done business with them for so long, but I was kind of afraid to leave my environment, and just come out to another country. I don't know anybody. I've dealt with Chinese people for about 7-8 years, from like 14, 15 to 18, so quite a while. Yeah. But I never thought about going there. And so when the opportunity came, I hesitated in the beginning, but then I went for it and I took it, and I never went back.
Had you been learning the language at all during the trade stuff?
Never.
So you came here to really master the language.
That was before I came.
China.
Yes. Yeah, so that's when I came to UIB, just to learn the language, like hello, bye, hello. Yeah.
Okay.
That was when I first started.
So as you grow, let's go back a little bit about this association.
Okay.
So what are the major activities that you have established or created, let's say, to help the students, help the alumni, right? Help the people to expand the network and also bring more resources to, let's say, the school analysts and the local students here in China.
Okay. I think one of the things that I'm very proud about, and it might sound kind of, basic or normal, but for me, I'm very proud of it because I've seen what the changes and I've seen how it's helped people. So the people that graduated from UIB that are doing very successful in society, we reach out to these people. We go and we find them through our channels and our networks, and we bring them back to university to give speeches and to share their experience, not only with international students, but with the Chinese students as well. So they can learn, say, you know what, if this person, for example, graduated and he's doing very successful in society, even though he's a foreigner, but what is he doing, or what road or what path did he take to make him that successful? So the foreign students, they love it because the foreign students now have a role model to look up to. They have, a direction to go. And Chinese students say, wow, a foreigner can do this in my country and he's doing good. Now we can do it too. So it's kind of motivational to both people. So these talks and these lectures, we're very heavy on this.
Well, I can imagine how valuable that is. And Ying, you have so much experience. This is really right up. This is really, for the listener, this is really right up Ying's alley.
My heart melts when I hear a story like this.
She's got the smile a mile out on her face right now.
because it's truly about, like building the bridge. You got to actually blend those each two, East and West, together. And you have to use every single way that you could think of to bring the two together, to engage. At least just building dialogues together.
You're right.
The influence.
You're right.
Wonderful.
You know what's so funny, Brandon and Ying? So for our alumni organization this year, for the first time, we created an international job fair.
Okay.
About a week and a half ago.
Good,
the very first time ever that we had in UIB through our alumni organization. And this time we took a different approach. We didn't just invite alumni to UIB. We also invited people that didn't graduate from UIB, but are very influential and have a lot of
so
impact.
you kind of mentor, provide examples, things like that.
There you go. And guess who we met?
Who'd you get?
Ying. So that's how we were able to meet as well. So we have do a common friend. Like we invited them to come to UIB, and we said we need a speaker, somebody that's very influential, has a very good charm, or somebody that's very good in society. And then they introduced us to Ying, and then Ying came, and then I think me and Ying met. To a common friend as well. So it's just funny how, like when you create a platform, when you create a system where people can exchange resources and interact.
That's a third ding because you're sending the signals and to people, and people have the similar, culture and spirit will be attracted.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is that's a microcosm of the bigger picture of how the benefit of your organization, because being able to, as you identified that need in the first place, where people are just going off in the world and they're disappearing, and there's no connection and there's no give back as well. So, I mean, alumni associations in everywhere else, I mean, part of it is because they want to be able to reach in the pocket of people as they become successful and be able to contribute, but help sustain the organization. But the learning and the connection is what's important. So this is Ying's focus with her work of cross-cultural communications. So I'm really glad that you met in this way.
Yeah, and I'm also pretty curious about, within so many years here, you make so many friends, of course. And there are, of course, a huge success stories, but there must be a lot of challenges.
Yes.
I'm sure challenges here, but I think you have your way to deal with challenges. So I would like to hear little stories.
Please.
So you can share with our audience, might actually right now maybe struggle or interested in dealing with that kind of similar thing.
Okay, let me give you, I guess, one or two examples. I have a lot more, but I'll give you one or two about some of the kind of struggles that I faced, and then I'll tell you all how I kind of solved it out. So I used to work for, this is about 7-8 years ago, I used to work for one of the biggest Chinese companies, biggest insurance company in China. It's called PICC. It's on every corner. PICC.
Right.
And I used to also work for one of the biggest American insurance company. It's called AIG.
Right.
So they came to China in 2013, and they hired me to come on board to be the board of directors, the translation board of directors. We built a joint venture company. At that time, it was called, English name was what? We built a joint venture company. And so when I was working in the company, I had to facilitate both parties, and PICC is a state-owned company. So it's not a regular company. Like, there's politics and there's a lot of stuff you have to do to survive in that company. So let me give you an example. So in America, for example, we send an email and you want to CC somebody, carbon copy somebody. It's very simple.
Sure.
Just put their name inside and you carbon copy them and it's finished.
They should know this or else it's practice, but someone would benefit from being aware of this, but it's not directed to them. And you just do it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go get a form stamped, which is probably where this is going.
Something similar to that. So in America, you CC somebody, carbon copy them, and it's done. Just want to keep the other person updated. Well, in China, and I learned this about 7 years ago. When I tell foreigners this, they're shocked. When I tell a Chinese person this, they say it's common sense. Well, I didn't know that. So when you CC somebody in China, what I did was I had to CC 5 people. So when I CC 5 people, first I CC the employee was number 1. Then it was the manager, and then it was like the CEO, and then it was the chairman of the board. And when I sent the email out, they came to my office and they're like, "What are you trying to do? What are you doing? It's so rude and disrespectful." And I, according to that sequence, I'm like, what happened? What's wrong? He's like, you better find a way to get that email back, like to recall it. I said, how? What did I do? Why? He says, in China, when you send an email, when you see somebody, in a sequence, you have to do it according to their job title. So when I'm sending an email, it's not just sending to the regular employee. Right. First is the chairman of the board, then it's the president, then it's the manager, then it's the regular employee. There's like a whole unwritten rule on how you send the email out, and it's something very small, minute, but for me it was like a culture shock, man, they call it it's like jiangjiu. I don't know how you say
jiangjiu. It's kind of the way to manage hierarchy. Actually, that's really pretty much echoes to our first season. We have a lot of crash course about that, and I think that's pretty much pretty common for a lot of international.
It really, really kind of got me shocked me. Let me know there's that culture thing there. You really got to seek to understand the opposite party, or it's not where I'm from anymore. It's about like in Chinese, they call it Rushang Suisu, like do as the Romans do.
Right.
Now I have to figure out what are they doing here and how can I, do the same thing, adapt to the situation.
Yeah, it's funny because the fact that also that the reaction wasn't, hey, for next time, here's the learning. It's, this is a crisis.
Yeah.
It's like, this is
Yeah,
this is a
it's
crisis.
nothing. Yeah.
Really? Is this a crisis? Okay.
So you have accumulated a lot of stories like that, right? So what those learning or experience have led you to right now? Like, what is your biggest focus in China after 10, 12 years?
So I guess my biggest focus now is to kind of have everybody like grow on this platform that I'm trying to create. Like just something very similar to what you and Brendan are trying to do. Just have people very cultural awareness. Like let them know like, what we can and what we can't do and how we can all work together and collaborate. I would love to be that link, for just anything internationally or culturally. That's what I'm very, very fond about. I'll tell you another story that was very, very interesting as well. When I was also in that company and we're in an elevator. So my initial thought was, we're going to lunch. I go in the elevator first, and I had the leader come in. Like he goes, it's like 10 of us. So I was thinking that I go in the elevator first, and then the leader will come in last. Like save the best for last.
That's kind of how we do it. That's how we do it in the States.
I was like, I'm not going to have everybody go in first and I wait. I go in last like I'm the big shot. I was like, no.
Exactly.
And then my initial thought as well was once the elevator opens, I get out first, and have him get out like he's the Don, like
right.
He get out.
It's like you're his bodyguard.
Yeah.
We got this. We'll clear the way for you.
There you go.
Is our thinking.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I know where this is going.
Yeah. Man, another crisis again.
Right,
so they, the guy pulled me out. And he's like, "Do you want your job?" And I'm like, "Yes, I want my job." He said, "You don't act like it." I said, "What now? What did I do?" He says, "In China, the leader goes in first. The leader comes out first." I was like, "What is this? What is going on?" And now that it happened, and years went by, I look at it, I laugh. But at that time, man, it was something like that was a lot for me to take in. Like, wow, I'm a student. I didn't
opposite thing.
Yeah.
And Ying was kind of driving at this. How do you generally manage, and how would you suggest people manage, whether in China or actually as Chinese people travel elsewhere, which would be useful? What's sort of a generic framework for how to not make these missteps? Like what's kind of, now you're savvy and local, but how generally how do you approach that when you travel or something?
Very good. So in China, there's a very, very famous saying. It's by Confucius. It's very, very famous saying. I love it to death. It goes, 三人行, 必有我师. I think if we translate it into English, it'll be when 3 people are walking, there has to be one person as a teacher. So like us 3 right now, we're talking or we're trying to do something about, let's say, for example, directing or movies. I don't know anything about it.
Right.
So the only thing I can do now is look to Brandon for you to share your experience and to teach me about it. So that's the only way. So if somebody else wants to avoid this kind of problem, or if somebody else is afraid they might encounter this kind of problem, they can look to somebody like a colleague or a friend or somebody that's in that industry or somebody that can kind of, update them and let them know what's going on. So look to somebody, find somebody that can guide you. They don't have to be older than you or a mentor, but find somebody that can guide you. My situation is a little different because in everything I do, I find a mentor or I find somebody that can advise me. Initially, when I was very young, I've heard that, try to find 1 or 2 mentors. That's the best way to do it. But because I'm a foreigner in China and I'm doing so many different things, 1 mentor, that's not enough for me.
Exactly.
Like, I have to find somebody in every industry that I do or very aspect, somebody I can call when I need them and say, you know what, I'm about to do this, or what advice or what suggestions do you have for me to do this? So kind of find a mentor or advisor for each thing you do.
That's a great strategy.
Excellent. So this mindset for seeking mentorship, do you find is culturally different?
Yes.
When it comes to right now in China, for example, this is more Confucian culture influenced society. Whereas in the other rest of the world, maybe people do this differently, think differently. Do you have any kind of experience?
Yeah, it's kind of funny, guys. It's very, very funny, but 80 to 90% of the people that I meet, I can't tell you why. I can tell you why, but I'm not sure if it's correct. But 80 to 90% of the people I meet, they don't like to ask for advice, or they don't they just don't want to do it. And I've heard, I tend to ask people why, you know, and I get so many different reasons, so I don't have the correct answer. But some people say asking advice, and Chinese people as well. It's so funny. It's the Chinese culture, but a lot of them don't like to ask advice as well. And foreigners, to some extent, as we do too, Americans, sometimes we shy away from it as well. But I've asked some people why they do this, and they gave me some reasons. The first one, they said it might appear to look weak.
Right.
So it might appear to look...
People are really terrified of that.
Yeah. There's like, it might appear to like, you know, be dumbfounded, like say, oh, he's asking and he doesn't know these things he's supposed to know. I think
the ego thing.
Ego, there you go. Pride, ego.
Right.
That's one of them that why it's hard for people to ask for advice and mentorship. I remember when I was younger, people would say, why do you ask so many questions, Chris? Like, or they say, Chris, like, if you don't know it, go research it. You know what I mean?
Well, I am. I'm asking you. I'm asking you, and you know
Thank you,
something.
thank you.
I am. I started already. I just asked you a question.
Yes.
So I have a response, even in more interesting feedback from my own culture. When I grew up, I asked a lot of questions like you do,
very
maybe.
good.
See,
Yeah,
always
that's
in the
right.
first role, but this is how it views in my culture. So it views you're challenging the authority. Why you asking me question? I said this, you know, basically, you know, there's whatever in the rule already, and you're asking the question, you're questioning. So it's about a way to deal with criticism and critical thinking.
Okay.
So that was some interesting story that happened in that culture back then. I think right now, as Chinese people going global, they kind of like more acceptable. But interesting, this is culture, right? It is
totally.
how it is perceived about asking questions.
You're right. I think it's just not just Chinese culture. I don't know, Brandon. What do you think? In America, I think sometimes people. Do you think? I think it might not be that much looked down upon, but have you encountered that as well?
Well, there's a way to do it. So it is subtle, and I think it depends on the context and. You know, depending on the type of academic environment you're in. I mean, I was fortunate to. I mean, I was a mixture of public and private schools, but in the better schools I was in, regardless of public or private, it's the teachers or professors expect you to be engaged.
Yeah.
They expect you to be engaged, and because I taught, flash forward to teaching and filmmaking and producing topics, but having in a very international master's program in LA. And this was something, and I've talked about this on other shows a bit in context, but that was the thing that first was very shocking and then became something I was aware of. And then I developed strategies to make them feel comfortable culturally, but especially Chinese students. And there are a few other cultures where this was similar, but especially the Chinese students, they wouldn't ask questions. They didn't want to be, from what Ying said, the thing that she got, smacked, got verbally smacked about as a child. And meanwhile, there would be the people from other cultures that are the opposite, like some of the students from like Brazil and other Latin American countries. Just hard to get them to shut up, So it's like, let everybody kind of play here. Yeah. But the feeling was that you're engaged and you're really trying to understand. Yeah. And so context is key. And this kind of gets back to the bigger picture of all this and why your organization is important, because being able to understand those subtle yet crucial differences is everything. Because if you're from a culture where you're supposed to basically be quiet and absorb, but not interrupt the teacher's flow, essentially. By interrupting the flow, as Ying was saying, it's like they translate it as you're undermining their authority.
Yeah, I see.
In the case of me, it would sometimes just derail me if I didn't have notes. But it's really crucial to do that. So for yourself, I mean, you've traveled and worked so much in different contexts. I mean, an open mind is part of it. But what else is useful? I mean, your Chinese is obviously pretty good because you work a lot as a high level interpreter. So how did you develop that skill? That's a related skill to this.
Actually, honestly, interpretation I'm very bad at.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So my Chinese layout, I studied for 11 years. So I'm really fluent in Chinese. That I've worked a lot, like to study Chinese. Interpretation is kind of a little different because, there's these certain vocabulary and certain words you got to use.
Absolutely.
But as far as Chinese, learning the language, I spent a lot of time and energy kind of, perfecting it, going like to classes. Actually, I went to translation classes as well, like simultaneous translation. I went there as well. Like, just like, the more I got involved in studying Chinese, the more I loved it and the more I liked it. Like, it's so interesting how, like I said, I'm very fond of how the Chinese culture, one word can have so many different meanings, or one like idiom, like, it has a whole story behind it, a whole history behind it, So I don't know. I've always been fond of this culture from the first day I came to China.
Well, these are the kinds of lessons that you're working to help impart to the younger Chinese with your new venture, right? And so tell us about this.
Yeah, you have a venture right now. Right now, you're focusing on, because I found this interestingly online also from you, that right now how did this idea of fostering younger Chinese version of Global Citizen, youth, right? It's an organization you have. So how did it come to you?
Since I've been in China for a while, I'm always thinking that there's that, like you said right now, Ying, when you ask questions, your teacher or your superior will tell you, she'll take it as being you challenging her. There's always that. It's like a big cultural difference between the Western and the Eastern world, and there is no wrong or right way. Every culture has their own way of doing things, but I feel like we should both understand the opposite party's culture. And so I'm like, how can we teach the opposite person the other person's culture? So I say it has to start from when they were young. We have to start when these kids are, for example, between 6 to 12 years old. Teach them in America, 6 to 12-year-old children do this, or in America, 6 to 12 children do that. Like, kind of teach them, educate them. We're not trying to tell them, our way is right way and your way is wrong way, but we want to say there's another way of doing things. Sometimes, guys, when I'm in China and I'm having problems like solving solutions and I can't solve it the American way, when I try to solve it the Chinese way, it works.
Magic, as if by magic.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it works. Like, like sometimes things don't always work the Western way. But when you they call it Huan Silu, when you change your way of thinking, it works the Chinese way.
So that's really using empathy.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Right?
Yes, you're right.
So I think it's skilled to develop.
You're right. So I say, you know what? What if the Chinese children, we can also do the same for them? Like, I've been blessed to be here 11 years to learn the Chinese culture. What if these children, the ones that can't afford to go abroad, the ones that can't afford to go overseas,
bring abroad to them.
I was just telling Ying earlier when I was driving in the car, there's only 3 ways Chinese children could go internationally. Only 3 ways. The first one is through an international school. So, for example, like, these schools. The second one is an international institution or university. The third one is through an international company. Right. Like Apple or, Huawei, whatever.
Sure,
There's only 3 ways they can do things internationally. There is no other option. And these 3 things, from what I've done research on, and these 3 channels are very expensive for these children. When you go to international school when you're young, it's like $300,000 just for 1 year.
Right. It's expensive. So there are economic barriers. Yeah. And of course there are skill or intellectual barriers. And it's getting a job. I mean, it's not just, everyone can't do everything. Right. You have to find where can you fit in.
You're right. So what we designed was for our company was we designed the courses ourselves on what we can teach the Chinese children. We hire our international teachers. And these teachers are also they're from all around the world, Egypt, America, France, Germany, from all around the world. And they're teaching them different international mindsets. And so we're giving the Chinese children the global world without going overseas. And so this is something, that's why we created it. Like, now they're able to look at things and do things in a different mindset.
Well, yeah, how does it work? How does it work practically? You mentioned taking them to different countries' embassies and things like that.
Yeah.
So what we do is this: we altogether we have our course is a 3-part course. The first part of the course is called journalist. It's called journalist curriculum. So altogether, our course is altogether 26 hours. So the first part of the course, journalist curriculums, is we're teaching them on how to be a journalist. These children don't want to be a journalist, but we're teaching them how to possess the skills that a journalist has.
To ask those journalistic questions. What, where, when, how, and why.
There you go. How to ask these questions, or how to stand up, or, when you're asking questions, like, there's certain ways of doing it. Right. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is we're teaching them international culture. So, for example, when they go to the embassy, let's say, they're going to go to the Colombian embassy. Now, I'm going to hire a Colombian teacher to teach them the culture about a Colombian culture. So when they do go to the embassy, they're not going to ask the ambassador, what color is your country's flag? or
Right.
they're not going to ask these
That's
basic questions.
You're going to prep them so they ask the smarter questions and they learn more. They have that opportunity. It's a great opportunity.
There you go. Right. So they from our courses, they already learn the culture, and the journalists, as far as taking the journalism courses, they learn how to ask these questions the correct way to the ambassador. And then the third one, it will be etiquette courses.
Okay.
So a lot we there's a tendency when we go to these embassies or go to these international institutions, they want to, for example, have lunch or dinner with these children, or they want to, sit down and talk with them in a very professional way. So we have to make sure that these children are very like from the etiquette point of view, they know how to eat, know how to talk, they know how to walk, they know how to dress. We have all of them dressed in suits. Like they're like Cambridge,
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So for your partners right now here in China, I noticed that you mostly partner with the local resources.
Yes.
For example, in Beijing, right, in some schools and also some maybe organizations. So what are their expectation or particular needs from this kind of activities? So why they are interested in actually collaborating with you?
Okay, a very good question, Ying. So the situation is one of our products is called International Journalists. That's one of our products. Well, in China, they have something already called journalists. They already have this program already here.
Okay.
So what we did was we took the normal program of journalists and we optimized it and made it international journalists. So they have these programs that Chinese children can go to, but they're not internationalized. They're just saying, for example, taking a Chinese person to maybe to a park or taking a Chinese person to maybe a Chinese organization to make them more Chinese, like Chinalized, have them learn more about China. We're telling them now, you know what? We want to make these children more internationalized. Because I might be wrong, but I feel I'm 100% correct. In about 10 to 20 years from now, there's going to be a lot more foreigners coming to China. And they're going to be wanting to do business with Chinese people. So we have to have these Chinese children when they're young, they have to learn how to be internationalized. So when these foreigners do come to China to work with Chinese, these Chinese people know how to deal with them.
Absolutely. And this is something that I've hammered, I share it as advice, or I really kind of hammer it in terms of teaching with people where it comes up, or we've done it on our previous season of the show. Because you really do have to, both sides have to bend, right? And sometimes one side has to bend more than the other side, and that's just the reality of it. And China, because again, China has come. Basically, they've gone from the Earth to the Moon in 40 years, considering how much catching up they've had to do to be at this international level and work with the international community. But so it is incumbent upon the people here who to do that extra bending and extra reaching.
Right.
And once the playing field is a little more level and everybody has a little more of a common frame of reference, then they can expect that people meet them halfway a little more. But right now, if you want to succeed, you got to do what Ying did and get your butt on a plane and go places. If you can't do that or that's not your path, you have to do the learning intellectually. You have to make the effort. You can't expect the effort to come to you.
You're right. I'm glad you said that, Brandon. 'Cause I was just gonna I wanted to commend you and Ying, because I think y'all y'all a prime example of the kind of direction that we want to go into for our children and what the kind of society that we want to build. We're in 2019 right now, but it's very, very, very rare. Still to this day, you'll find like an American and a Chinese person working together, creating a podcast, and I know y'all must have like culture barriers or culture, stuff, and y'all still doing it. This is what the kind of background or the kind of environment we want to create.
I'm an old dog trying to learn new tricks. Where I'm the middle age, I'm the Gen X, Gen X American. Guy, and she's the Chinese female, millennial, and so this is amazing. Cross-cultural, cross-generational. That's our little blend.
Really
here.
amazing.
And we're also very happy to have found you because
totally.
That resonate. Your story what you just shared actually resonate with our principles, with the goal, the mission-driven goal we have here is building bridges. Again, like I always do a lot of speaking on this. How do you build a bridge, right? Building a bridge is not about, just going to outside of China to tell what this is China. But it's very important for China to get ready.
You're right.
So how to get China ready? It's not like one person's job. It's not about me and Brendan just doing this podcast. It's truly about to bring all the people like your initiative of venture together, little by little, you know, and 1.4 billion people here in China.
Right.
Imagine right now, yesterday I read a report there's 90% people haven't actually took a flight, and
Wow.
it's in China.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's imagine how many people. I have to find the exact number, but it's a shocking number that who have the passport.
Well, only like 5 or 6% of Americans have
I
a
heard that
passport.
too,
It's a tiny
incredibly
amount. I mean,
low number yet.
Yeah.
I mean, right now for Chinese people to have the passport.
Yeah.
Right.
Imagine the potential unleashed in the future when the young kids you cultivate for 5-10 years back, and going everywhere, engage much more. And with that being said, it's about being building a bridge from two sides, working together. And then China has to get ready, and we come to like closer and closer. Right.
You're right.
Sometimes it means. And the effort, I'm so glad that this particular initiative happening in China, helping Chinese to be internationalized in China. And there's a lot of things because that's the resources. That's what the foreigners in China, they have things to do. And there's a lot of opportunities like what you just create. Of course, we deal with a lot of people who tell us that, it's difficult to find a job. I think it's because of they haven't met someone like you. Maybe you haven't really been able to share this message to the people. I think it's very, very important for people to realize that so much things, unless they have this cultural intelligence, they engage with and build this thing together.
You know what I met Ying? We met a couple days ago through WeChat, you know. We met and I saw her profile. I was just really amazed, like her biography. Yeah, I was like really like, it's really, really like inspirational, you know? And I was like, man, we want our children to go in that direction, you know? Like to be international. Like she's still Chinese, but she can quickly change into like an American mindset if it needed to be done, you know?
She can order you a meal in Portuguese too.
You said, wow, come on. And she's telling me she lived in Brazil as well, right?
Guys, let's continue.
You're embarrassing me.
Yeah, but I mean, I just think that they're a prime example. We had in America, we had a former president, you know, rest in peace, John F. Kennedy, and he had a very famous speech, a quote that I really love. He said, "Don't ask what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." You know,
and he's paraphrased that for Chinese people to
so literally,
as well.
I talk to my peers, say, okay, don't ask what China can do for you.
Yes.
Ask what you can do to change China
There
for
you
better.
go.
This
Yes.
applies to both ways.
Yes.
Not about Chinese, but also for international.
Yes, you're right.
Here
You're
in
right.
China, right?
You're right.
So you got to really do it internally,
Yeah.
and then it become a powerful external influence.
You're right. You're right.
Where do you see yourself? Because I know you're tight on time, and I realize we're gonna have to do follow-ups with you.
No problem.
We could do just an entrepreneurial podcast with you. We could do a lot of specific. We could do an hour on any given topic. I think on your resume. But where do you see yourself going? And where do you see the sort of the near term of China as this ascendancy is happening? What's sort of your crystal ball look like the next few years?
Actually, Brendan, it's so funny because I was just watching the news yesterday. I was taking some notes for the One Belt One Road.
Right.
Xi Jinping, Chairman Xi, right?
He's got about 12 titles. But.
Yeah. So he gave a speech and he said that he has 4 things that he wants to do for China.
Right.
And I wrote these things down because I think it was very important.
You wrote them down in Chinese, I know.
In Chinese, yeah, in Chinese. I'm gonna translate it.
Sure.
But the first one was Gao Zhiliang. He wanted to start having high quality products. I think it's something like President Xi has done so much for China already, and I think he's still continuing to do good things. So the first one was high quality products. I think that's the direction that China's going to go in. The first one was more transparency. He's saying he's trying to strive to, have more things more transparent in China. I think that's a very difficult task for foreigners to do when we come into China. We want things to be more transparent, and he says he's trying to do that. The third one was, and I think he's doing a very good job on the third one, create a green environment, like make things more,
Greener China.
Greener China.
Great.
Even the car I have now is electric car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not, yeah. So,
nice.
And that's the only car I could buy. Like, because in China they have the lottery. Like
Right.
Yeah, for the green card right now, green, it's like energy card.
Yeah, energy card. Yeah.
So is it easier to get
Much
that
easier.
car?
At that time, when I did apply for it, like 4 or 5 years ago, it was. Now I heard it's a little harder, but the regular cars you can't even get it.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
This isn't is it a Tesla or did you go
No,
with Chinese?
Chinese.
Okay.
I heard about because the Tesla. I heard. I'm not sure. This is something I heard. I heard that it's international car, so you can't really apply for the quota like the local quota.
But so you're driving one of the Chinese.
You want the Chinese electric cars?
Right.
Yes,
okay.
yes. So that's one. So President Xi said he wants to be more green friendly. And the fourth one, I think, which is the most important one, I think this is going to help China become more internationalized. He said he wants to have people be able to penetrate the Chinese market.
Okay.
Because a lot of people, that's a problem that we're having as well. We want to bring our products to China, or we want to bring some services to China, but because there's so many barriers, it's kind of hard to get inside the Chinese market. So President Xi said these 4 things: high quality, more transparency, green to China, and having people to penetrate the Chinese market. He wants to focus on these 4 things. So that's why I see China going in the future in these 4 aspects.
And where do you see yourself fitting into all that?
As far as me, where I see myself fitting is that, man, I just want to be the person that can help more people achieve their goals. That's what it is. Like, a lot of people ask me, like, Chris, what do you get from doing all these things? What do you want? And I say, as long as people are like benefiting from the platform that I'm creating, or as long as people are, accomplishing their goals through me, I'm happy. That's what makes me happy. That's what it is. It brings a smile to my face when I see people say, you know what, Chris, thanks so much. I found a job through your platform. Or, Chris, thanks so much. Like, my child has become more internationalized through your platform. It brings so much to me. That's what I want.
So you believe in win-win.
There you go. Win-win. Yes, you're right.
And that's the mindset that we have to build no matter what. Because as the world shifts, at the end of the day, we have to think about if we want to lose or win-win. I think everybody make common sense that we have to start to work toward that.
You're right.
No matter what. That's the whole point of why we do what we do right now.
You're right.
Awesome. Well, Chris, we appreciate your time. You squeezed us in on a busy, jam-packed Saturday. We will do our wrap up. We'll start by saying thank you, sir.
No problem.
Really appreciate this, and we will definitely need to have you back to continue this conversation. Ying-Ying, do you have any closing thoughts? It's great to see you here in Beijing again.
Wonderful. And we will in the future bring more experts like Louis here today. And it's a wonderful talk for me. I got inspired. For me, it's very inspiring every single time. And is there any way for us to follow you and online?
Yes. How should we track you down? And we'll put this in the show notes. We'll put a link.
What is the best way?
So on Instagram, you can follow me on Instagram. It's called Christopher Louis ONIYA. So you type Christopher, then underline.
I'll get the spelling in the show
Christopher,
notes,
then underline Louis, underline ONIYA. You can find me on Instagram. I'm on that very, very heavy. On WeChat, I guess you can. It's my number 158-1109-6401. I'm very easy to get.
You're gonna start getting robocalls for Trump.
I'm very easy to get to. I didn't say anything bad today, so it's okay.
So you use all the social media accounts.
All the social media accounts. I'm actually I just got onto Douyin as well.
Douyin.
Trying to get involved in that as well. I think what Brandon is doing right now is actually a very good example. Like how he said, he's like you're representing different generations. Like your age range. You're doing so many. Like, I don't think we should limit ourselves. Like, we're trying to constantly to adapt. And guys, as well, I just want to tell you all, thank you, man. This is a very good platform that I created. I mean, when I saw it online, as soon as I saw it, I was like, man, I want to be a part of it. And if I have in the future as well any other maybe international alumni or any international people that I think can contribute to it, I'm willing to introduce it to you all. This is a very good platform, and I hope that y'all can continue to do what you all can to influence people around society.
Thank you. We would definitely be grateful and appreciate that.
We're so glad to have you.
And listener, thank you so much for listening. We have another great show already in the can for you, so we will see you next week on
How China Works.